We got ourselves Team 2 with Chicago. Coming back in as elemental shaman. Okay, sticking to those guns. It's gonna be Tense God as a feral druid. With in the back, we got Flexi Kitty with Nightmares as a frost deacon with Dark Simulac Electrum. We also have ourselves War Grand swapping up the Mog. I like the look. I like the spear. I like the whole ensemble. We got Fear Lord X as Boomasaur. Shadow Priest. First up versus Nightmares on his team. We got some Lord Paladin in the back. Sarakai with Demoniac as well as Monkey Flip. I actually had to go look at his name on the left side of the screen on his health bar because with him spinning, I actually can't read that at all. You got such goobers with your spins. Nightmares and Fear Lord X going for a bit of a bow to one another. Dark Sim, is that going to come into play for the Frost DK? I'm actually very interested. I do like this whole set. I wonder if it's actually a dual wield or a two-hand, because he got the artifact weapon transmog, but I wonder, because you could have a two-hander and transmog like as if you're dual wield. And it doesn't change anything. Stun onto Fear Lord X. Shook it out with the fear into the stun onto Nightmares immediately. Haven't used Dark Sim just yet. It is playing Relentless. There's going to be Lichborn available off of that. I guess it went to Lichborn out of a fear, but then the stun followed up with a. It's going to be a greater fate for Fear Lord X. Trying to go for a grip on the Shadow Priest. Looks like it's going to happen. It's going to be big haste buff for Fear Lord X. Almost getting interrupted on Shadow. Nightmares might have to go for an AMS here. Does go for AMS very, very late. I guess I had to go for AMS to deal with the mind game. Shadow Crash coming out. Nightmare's not in a good position. And it looks like he might just be going down here. Didn't even get to use Dark Sim or anything. I wonder if he was able to maybe take some kind of a defensive from Fear God X. Like a Disperse with a Dark Sim. Wouldn't that be cool? It's going to be quick Disperse for Fear Lord X as Tense God does go for an opener. Catches him a quick reset. Looks like he's not going to be able to get a proper opener. Skull Bash with a Trinket out of that CC chain, and Fear Lord X taking quite a bit of damage. He does have Greater Fate available if he needs it. Has free cast since Chin's Gods doesn't have any kind of interrupts into a fear onto the Druid. Should be perfect opportunity for Fear Lord to get some damage rolling. Does get interrupted onto Mind Games, but did recover a lot of health though. Mind Games to follow, and Ten's God is nowhere to be found. Just trying to line aside Fear God as he goes in for a little bit of a cast heal here. Skull Bash available for Ten's God in just a moment, so he should be in a good spot to get himself an interrupt onto Fear Lord X. Greater Fate available for Fear God though, so he doesn't really fear anything from this Feral Druid. Tried to maybe catch a restall, but looks like Feral isn't going to be able to do it. Big old setup coming out for Fear Lord X with Convoke. No defense available for Fear God X. Fear Lord X does go down. Boomasaur Shadow Priest does get Convoked. That was a pretty interesting spot. Normally people go for Brutal Slash into Big Ol' Bite, but Brutal Slash into Maim into a Convoke makes all the sense in the world. Sarakai gonna be up next as a Fire Mage. Getting opened up on by Tense God. The camera is looking a little bit weird for Sarakai right now. It is a little bit taller. Goes for the G-Pie as Tense God is going to take a bit of damage in the opener. Ring of Frost to follow up. Does catch him with a Ring of Frost. Does he follow up any big damage? Maybe Meteor? Goes in for a Meteor. Do we see a combustion? We do not see a combustion just yet as Tense God does wall this damage. Try to see if he might be able to get some counter pressure here with the dots onto Sarakai. Interrupting shifting power. That's a perfect opportunity for Sarakai to be able to get all the damage out. He's locked out on nature, which is not a cast type of school that mages really normally have, but with that shifting power, it does give him that advantage. Maim to Sarakai did have himself alter time, and looks like he's going to be able to alter a lot of that damage. With the Breath of the Tense God, with a Repoly, that should be another G-Pie available. Does he follow up with a combustion off this? I think he might wait for a Meteor. Fireball, combustion available. Pyros, is that going to be enough? The Tense God goes for a massive heal. Shadow Meld Stealth on to get an opener onto Sarakai. Does stun him. The combustion's still rolling. Tense God taking quite a lot of damage. Barkskin is the only thing that's keeping him alive besides his own self-heals. Should have a Convoke the Spirits available very, very soon, by the way. Sarakai still holding on to a Trinket, so that Maim or a stun by Tense might be hard. Does interrupt him on a freeze into an aggressive playstyle by Tense. Trying to make damage on the Sarakai work here. Dropping down the Meteor on the Feral, but it doesn't look like it does enough. Images are available. Sarakai trying to see if he might be able to get away from Tense God. Going for Shift and Power. So far, Tense is completely okay. Interrupt him not on Arcane, not on Fire, but on Frost as well as Nature. All the time available for Sarakai. Should be able to reverse his health in case he ever gets in trouble. It does give himself that bit of a buffer to wait until the shield is back up and running. Tense, no Trinket available. Sarakai could maybe get a setup on him. Trying to go for a Poly. Looks at Tense, doesn't get hit with a Poly. Sitting in a bear form. Ring of Frost, interrupt him on the ring, has a lot of pressure yet again into a invest for a second. Serukai does choose to chicken out of the main. Next go, could probably go for a massive convoke. Serukai does not have combustion for a little bit, needs to get the combustion ASAP. Kind of misaligned the meteor from combustion, but it should be back in about 30 seconds at about together. Actually, never mind, he did misalign it. That means actually almost perfect use. They're only distinct by a few seconds, so you have them together. Again, he just goes for the interrupts on Frost. And nature, big convoke coming out. Serukai might have to ice block it. Does choose to ice block it. That also was cauterized. So both defenses are gone. Normally you would desync both of them. Normally you would just ice block before the cauterized procs because ice block is going to heal you anyway. And then for the cauterized, you'll just pop your shields. Or maybe alter time with it and you'll be good to go. Breath into a freeze on intense. God, does Serukai have the setup? Meteor, combustion, everything. Is that going to be the big setup by the mage right here? Does he go for the meteor? Fireball to follow. Big combustion. Meteor, I think clips Tense got by a hair. Does go for a massive swiftman. Try to see if he can recover. No defense available except for maybe Bursting, but I don't think I even see that. That's going to be Serukai still with combustion, pounding those pyroblasts back to back into Tense God X. But looks like it's just not going to happen. Does go for a skull bash again on a nature cast. Alter time available for Serukai. Looks like Serukai has a setup every time, but that combustion, the meteor, or all that damage just did nothing to Tense. And I think Tense didn't even have Barskin because there goes Barskin now. So far, this Feral just took no damage from a combustion. Normally, you just melt. I wonder if Serukai is not rolling Ring of Power or Rune of Power. Maybe that's the difference here. Because I feel like with Rune of Power, most mages do go for that at this point. Again, goes for interrupts on Frost, not Fire, not Arcane, Frost, and Nature. The two casts of Serukai doesn't really use that often. Maybe Tense is just trying to out-sustain Serukai. Let the bleeds go through him, get through the shields. Again, continuing to kick him on freeze over and over. Just staying on top of the guy. Goes in for Brutal Slash, maybe a big setup. That's going to be shields back for Serukai at 11% dampening. Those shields are going to hold on strong, and that's going to be maybe Tense almost getting a Cyclone. Does get the Cyclone, doesn't get frozen though. And it looks like he might be okay for a bit. Serukai has a meteor coming up very, very soon. That's going to be combustion in about 30 seconds. Big bites are rolling out all the time, but is that going to be enough? He doesn't have the big defenses anymore. No ice block. No cauterize, and I think it's going to be a pod. Tense should be able to take down the pod. Unless he's just completely out of energy. Does so himself. Brutal Slash is available with Tiger's Lust or Tiger's Fury. Yeah, I think he's going to be a-okay. Next up is going to be Milord Pala, the Retribution Paladin. Are we going to see a massive, massive Seraphim play? Because I've seen a lot more Palis in his duels running Seraphim opener by Tense. Getting himself on just a little bit of a setup with the bleeds. Berserk has been used. And this is going to be a bear form wall. I think he's just waiting for that Shield of Vengeance to proc. Does have a wall for the Shield of Vengeance. Big convoke. Milord Pala does go for a quick rebuke. The dots do set in onto Milord. A couple bites did go through. Hodge onto the Feral Druid. While in bear form, chooses to trinket Ursul's Vortex onto Milord. It looks like he's just going to try to see if he can bail away from him. Mobility for mobility. As Milord is chasing. Good leap by Tense. If he's just trying to avoid Milord Pala, that leap was actually pretty good for it. Milord does have massive final verdicts flying out with the legendary. Does give him a little bit more holy damage, a high chance to get a reset Hammer Wrath, but also has a bit of range for paladins that have trouble chasing other people. That a little bit of range is pretty good. Milord is, though, getting auto attacks onto Tense while Thorns are up. Not looking good for his health. Might be a Blessing of Protection or a bubble at this point, but looks like the Paladin self-heals are still holding on strong. I think that's a minute-long waste coming out for a bit of a self-heal playstyle. And Tense is not in a great spot right now on health. Does get a cycle onto Milord and is going to catch himself a reset. He got himself a nice cycle and got himself a little bit of distance, which is perfect. Milord Pala is going to have to decide whether he goes for Blessing of Protection or bubble for the next big go that Tense has. If Tense can just get through all those defenses from Milord, he'll be in a good spot. Shield of Vengeance coming back very, very soon. Hodge onto the Druid. Does Milord have enough damage? He's not running Seraphim, but still might have enough here. Barsky coming back for Tense as it drops to 58% health with Thorns to follow, and Milord just doesn't have any follow-up damage, looks like. Does get a rebuke off of that Cyclone, and Tense health is not in a good spot right now. Looks like the Thorns just wasn't enough damage. Does land a maim onto Milord. And that should be quite a lot of self-heal. Cycle still trying to come out. No rebuke this time. Does Milord risk it? Can he bubble out of this? I'm pretty sure he can. And that's going to be Ursul's right after as Tense gives himself a clean reset. Gets almost an opener interrupt onto Milord Pala. Goes for the stun instead. And my lord doesn't have wings for 13 more seconds, so it's going to be a little bit of time before he can sync up the Hodge and the wings together. There's going to be a little bit of time for that. Tense is still continuing to get slammed, does get a reopener with a Convoke, getting rebuked on. Probably not a good idea just to use Convoke when you know you're going to get interrupted. That's so much heavy damage. Could have forced a bubble or bop. But maybe with the Thorns and a little bit of bleeds, that still might be enough. Shield of Edge is available from Lord Pala. Does get a Belf off to remove the Thorns. And that's going to be a Cyclone almost landing by Tense. Has a trigger for this one as the wings come out. My lord is just trying to throw every hammer in his repertoire at the Feral Druid. Does he land the kill into a quick maim? Entangling Roots right after, and my lord Pala is going to have to give himself probably a bit of a reset with that Cyclone coming out. Does he commit? Trinket coming out. Still holding on to Bubble and Bop. And that's going to be Tense not in a great spot. Big old hammer dropping on his head, and my lord does take down the Feral that's been rampaging through this dueling arena so far. We still have plenty of people on Team 1 that haven't got to play. My lord Pala, as well as everybody else, probably going to get a chance, and so will Chicago, who looks like they'll be up next as an Elemental Shaman. Maybe they were just giving my lord Pala a little bit of a reset. Tense never got through Bubble or Bob from Lord Pala. But that's Paladins right now, dude. There's got so much self-heal, so much self-sustain with Word of Glory. It's actually nuts. Between your wings as well, which also gives you a lot more self-heals, I feel like you need to really burst down a Paladin or just continuously just keep hitting him afterwards, right? Make him commit all their damage into self-heal completely. Put him on a back foot. Maybe with a higher dampening as we are in 38%. I think that's the only way to really do it. Or maybe catch him in a stun and then kind of burst him down. There's just so little options that people have nowadays. This is going to be Chicago, though. Position himself to knock Lord Pala back. Trying to go for a Primordial Bolt. Should be quite a lot of big lava bursts available. Chicago taking a beating, though, from Lord Pala. Shield of Vengeance crashing on him. It looks like the Shaman almost got taken out. Flesh Cap coming in. That's going to be a Hex to follow as he baited a kick out of Lord Pala. That's actually a really good hit. And there goes the Lava Burst play onto my lord. He's going to line aside the Shaman. He is aware of the power the Shamans have. And Chicago catching on quite a few heals. Just a couple of heals at 42% dampener. Just bring a class that heals better than a Paladin in order to beat a Paladin. That's all you need. Look at Merle Palace flashy heals, dude. Compared to Chicago, it's actually Chicago just got more healing than he does. Maybe that's literally all you need. It's just a class that heals for more. That's all it takes. And Chicago is playing the right Covenant too. That has a nice burst of potential. Gonna be my lord Pala getting stunned with the Earth Alley with a wall available for Chicago. Hand of Freedom is gonna keep him rolling. The Chicago better be aware. Nice knockback around the ledge. Is gonna get Lava Burst off back to back onto my lord with a light lasso as he gets a little bit too close. Dipping down onto the bridge. And is gonna try to play a bit defensively. Ghost was coming out. What is going on? My lord just got some lucky proc just now. I think that was the divine bell tolling, sending Chicago into the Shadowlands. But not like in a way that we got sent to Shadowlands, you know, through the mob, but like actually like into the Shadowlands. I guess technically everything's going to the mob now anyway. Anyway, that was a lot of burst. Wargun gonna be up next, getting hit with a Hodge. Does he pop a defensive? It doesn't look like Pet Sack used or anything. And that's going to be my lord Pala getting a couple of hammers and dipping under. That's going to allow Worgen to get himself a bit of a reset. And I think that's what my lord Pala was hoping for. Is at least a little bit of reset for himself. He probably knew that, you know, this hunter is probably going to get me in a trap, get me in CC. He's going to get a reset anyway. My health, though, not looking that good. A 50% dampener. Going to be a big Resonant Arrow coming out for Worgen. Stunning the Lord in the Resonant Arrow. That's some more opportunity for him to get a bunch of crits into the Paladin. Going to be Shield of Vengeance available for my lord Paladin as Worgen backs up as he sees the big damage coming out of a Retribution Paladin. Tries to go for Acceleration. Doesn't heal him for a lot. Trinket out of Worgen into a Freezing Trap onto my lord Paladin. Does choose to Trinket, so probably a good idea for Worgen to have Turtle up. I don't think he expected from my lord Paladin to Trinket this. But it was definitely a tough situation, and in the end, burning a Trinket for a Turtle might not be the worst call ever. So Worgen at least will have control as long as my lord Pala doesn't use Blessing Protection or Bubble. Unless he uses Blessing Protection, then you still have Freezing Trap. My lord Pala just beating up on his pet. And Worgen just takes so much damage. He's a range class, and it looks like my lord Pala just has more range than he does. Random hammers that he can throw out. Also, Final Verdict has extra range. Final Verdict gives you free hammers of Righteous, so you get more hammers to throw. You basically become a range class in a way. I wonder if Paladins can ever become like a pseudo range class in a sense. Kind of like how Survival Hunters are. Because technically there was like a quote-unquote range build back in the beta for Paladins. Worgen getting quite a bit of freebie damage into my Lord Pala from a distance. Is it going to go for a harpoon? If you might be able to get my Lord Pala caught trying to self-heal himself. Hodge onto Wargren though, turning it around, and I think my Lord Pala might just have him. That is going to be it. Done and done as Flexing is going to be up next. Another survival hunter from one to the next. Also, Resonant Arrow doesn't go for a freezing trap onto my Lord. Doesn't go for an interrupt. That is a shield event available very, very early. But he's still holding on to Bop and Bubble. Might be Bop or Bobble right here. Bubble coming out. Better use it early. And looks like he's just going to turn the attention onto the pet. Beating it up just like he did when it comes to playing against Wargren. Also, I just realized there's details at the bottom right of my screen. So sorry about that. Immersion breaking. I'll fix it as soon as I can, boys. I'll fix it as soon as I can. Actually, I could probably fix it now, couldn't I? Hold on. Window? Close. There we go. I fixed it. That was so quick. It's a little bit weird how you have to do it. You have to click away from the main monitor, and then you get the cursor. Otherwise, you don't normally see the cursor, which is kind of weird. Bop available from Lord Pala. Actually having to burn through a lot of defensives, and that's going to be Bop sniped out immediately by Flexing. Has him in a kill shot available. Just needs maybe Resonant Arrow so you can see him line aside him. Probably could throw Resonant Arrow to the corner of that bridge and still be able to clip him. Milord is just running. Flexing just needs to get a Resonant Arrow on the corner. There it goes. Is going to be able to harpoon through. Hodge by Milord doesn't get to turn it around. Is this the big turnaround by the Pala? Decides against it. Flexing should still be able to have quite a bit of range on this ability. There's no line of sight to worry about. Wings available for Milord. Does he go aggressive? Does he go defensive? Try to Word of Glory. It's got to sustain himself. It's going to be a flash of light. It's Flexing is going to reposition. Barely any healing is available at 68% dampener. That pet is just doing freebie damage to Milord, and Flexing needs to get more dots onto Milord. This is a perfect opportunity. You can just continue clearing all the debuffs. Shield of Vengeance is going to almost take out the pet. Flexing should have plenty of damage. Eagle is available, so that should be lots of range. Unless Milord Pala can finish him. Try to think maybe to go for a Hodge as the turtle came out. That might have been a Hodge. Did he use a Hodge just now? It's so we don't get to see if there's a Hodge or not. Trying to turn the attention to the pet just for more Word of Glories. 71% dampener. It could be anyone's game. Popping wings just to give himself more self heals. That's got to be both of them super low. It's got to be. Oh, what? What just killed you? Was that a judgment at the end? That it just didn't seem? Big old 4. Oh, by my Lord Pala just blasting these boys as a retribution. Jesus. That's nutty. That is so nutty.